We will accept public comment at this time. If anyone would like to speak.
I would appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, so I will pass this around as well. It's a little bit on the long side, but I'm representing all these folks. So, ladies and gentlemen of the Central School Board, I'm speaking on behalf of the teachers and other licensed staff of the Central School District. We have some serious concerns about the budget you are considering tonight. As you are well aware, times have been tough for educators during the Great Recession. Our school district has not escaped unscathed. We've seen shortened school years, cuts to teachers' salaries, even the loss of one of our schools. We've borne all these things because we knew that eventually things would improve, and more importantly, because we placed the welfare of the students of this community above our own. You have gone to great lengths to make our financial situation as stable as is in your power, and you've had to make some difficult decisions in order to do so. Now the Central School District finds itself in a place where it can begin to repair some of the damage of the last few years. That's an exciting opportunity. We share your desire to see that repair focused on student achievement. Unfortunately, in some very specific respects, the budget you are considering tonight does not reflect those priorities. We've all read much of the same research about student achievement. We know that the best way to improve education for our kids is to give them more time with better teachers. Anyone, be it the state or the feds or the so-called school reformers, who offer some magic bullet that will lead to higher student achievement with inferior teachers and less school days is, often quite literally, trying to sell you something. So if we know that better teachers and more student contact time are the keys to student achievement, those should be the priorities reflected in your budget. Teacher improvement takes many forms. It requires more rigorous and less punitive teacher evaluations, and the CEA has worked with the district over the last year to create just such a system. It requires rigorous standards and accurate assessment, but those are worthless if teachers, real teachers, not curriculum and testing salesmen, don't have the time to create and implement those together. You've given us professional learning communities and teacher workplace to do just that. It requires professional development, and we understand that this is going to be done in a more thoughtful and systematic way in the future, something we're excited to hear. Getting and holding on to the best teachers also requires competitive compensation. I've sat on hiring panels for this district and heard our first choices say they simply can't afford to work for the Central School District. I've spoken with some of our best and most beloved teachers who've confided that, though they love our community and our students, if they were offered a position in another district here in Oregon, they would simply have to take that position for the sake of their own families. Similarly, we know that student contact time leads to improved outcome for kids. It's the #1 way to close the achievement gap. During summers, middle-class kids are going camping with their families and visiting museums, rich kids are going on family trips to Europe, and poor kids are taking care of themselves, watching TV all day long while parents work 2 jobs to put food on the table. Is it any wonder that the gap grows the most every summer and closes during the school year? Giving more days of school to our kids is key to improving their performance, but not all school days are created equal. The amount of preparation time teachers have to improve those days of school greatly affects the quality of those days. We can't skimp on teacher preparation days to increase student contact time. We have to lengthen the calendar year if we truly want to see our kids improve. Knowing these are the keys to improving student achievement, I call your attention to the budget you'll be considering tonight. At first glance, it seems to reflect these priorities. The district is restoring elementary B and music, essential programs that improve our students' health and mental fitness in ways that'll pay off in every other subject area. More counselors are being made available to our kids at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. As bang for your buck goes, these might be the absolute best deals, since counselors not only change lives, they sometimes save them. As mentioned, the district is allocating funds to improving professional development and purchasing new curricula. Those are both steps to improving student success. But there are some choices reflected in this budget which are contrary to that stated goal. When the budget was developed based on the $6.3 billion projected state budget, all those things were included. When the new projections came out at $6.55 billion, those priorities should have remained. Instead, additional dollars were allocated for an increased deferred maintenance contingency fund. We already have one of the highest reserves of any district in the state at 6.5% of our budget, which you could tap into with board action in the case of an emergency. There's being conservative, and then there's hoarding. $100,000 additional dollars were put into the capital reserve account to buy land in the future. It will be wonderful to have money for a new elementary when the need arises, but we've all agreed that the need for student improvement exists right now. Increases in student population, which will necessitate a new school, will also bring new money to the district. Right now, our focus should be on the kids we have today. The account for textbook adoption is simply too large. We're well aware that textbook adoptions are expensive, ridiculously and offensively expensive in my opinion, but you could allocate funds for gold-plated textbooks or iPads for every student, and without the best teachers to use them in their instruction, you've bought very fancy, shiny toys. Lastly, your reserve accounts for PERS are bloated. We understand that there's a lot of uncertainty related to PERS. That won't even be resolved when the legislature passes the budget, because their choices will immediately go to court and we won't find out all the consequences for years. Meanwhile, my 8-year-old will have his one and only shot at 3rd grade, and maybe 5th and 7th before the courts have figured out what to do about PERS changes. The CEA understands that you don't want to face an unpleasant surprise during the biennium when the new PERS costs are calculated. We just want to remind you that you face a risk either way. Maybe those PERS costs will materialize, and maybe they won't. But if you set aside this much money to deal with that contingency, you run a far more immediate risk that this district will miss out on that incredible 4th grade teacher, or will lose that excellent high school science or middle school math teacher who chooses to get a job at a district that doesn't always try to solve its problems on the backs of its teachers, and forgets those sacrifices when the economy improves. The CEA contract expires in just 16 days. I ask you to consider which risk is more pressing. The teachers of the CEA are not asking you to forego all the goals represented in this budget. Our economic proposal would not have prevented the hiring of those new teachers, the purchase of new curriculum, or the professional development we all know we need. We're not asking you to work less either. While the district's proposal would have cut into teacher planning and assessment time, we offered to increase the length of the school year to have the time to do all the things you're requesting of us and still have more time to teach our students. We're not asking to have the same pay as teachers in Salem or Eugene or Beaverton, but the district's offer didn't even keep up with inflation after years of cuts to teacher pay. Telling our teachers to forget the sacrifices they've made in the past would not only be an insult, but it would put us further behind in our ability to recruit and retain the best. We're not here to ask you to bargain the contract either. You have a good, honest team doing that work for you. They are telling us that they feel hemmed in by the limitations written into this budget. So we're here to ask you to give your team assurances that the budget can be designed with the necessary flexibility and can be amended in the future so that it will reflect our shared focus on improving student performance. Find out which of these accounts would be locked up, which could be easily changed without board action, and which would require the approval of a new budget. And then make sure the budget you pass today will provide the children of our community with the best instruction from the best teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have copies of that for you as well.